Well, guys, in an unexpected turn of events, I've ended up with not one, but two of these now. We're going to actually try to get this thing to stay running, if at all possible. This one's in the better shape of the two, minus a couple of things. But she's been sitting for a while. I've seen it run very, very briefly, and that was it. So this is a 1967 John Deere 112. Second year of production for the 112 model ever. It's 46-inch mower deck, which is buried in snow right now. Believed to be all original tires. Paint's pretty close to all original, if not touched up in a couple spots, etc., etc. It's kind of unmolested, actually. The engine spins over pretty free. Like I said, I've heard it run. Doesn't burn that much oil. You know, it's pretty acceptable for an old engine that's, what, 60-ish years old now? We're just kind of flying blind here. So first of all, we gotta get the snow off of here. Now, granted, this is a problem that hasn't really been that big of an issue to most people, but in my case, I got two of them beside me that have a problem with it. And that problem is there's a little points push rod down in there that moves your points actuator for your ignition, for your spark. Since it's a gas ignition engine, or a spark ignition engine, that little push rod will sometimes swell up, and then when you try to remove it, it'll try to break off in the bore, and now you're kind of hosed. You got to try to figure out how to get it out of there. It's a whole snowball of a problem. But in this video, I'm going to show you how to fix it, because I finally cracked the code after about 5 hours of farting around with it and reading online. It was kind of hard. It's very easy once you figure it out, but it's kind of difficult to figure out when you're putting it together. Here we are on the side of the engine. We come in here to our little points housing on the block. It is to the left of the spark. There's your coil. Here's your wire going into the points. Here's your points still hooked up. And in this case, as you can see right there, there's a little flat flange. And that little rusty part right there is where our points are, or at least the push rod is for the points. And he moves in and out with the camshaft in here on a lobe that moves back and forth to actuate these points right here. It would sit in the machine like this. There's a rod in there, and there's a little hole, as you can see there, where that guy sits in. And there's a screw hole up on the top there that holds him in right about there-ish. Of course, we're not in there, of course. That push rod will actuate against that piece of metal right there, and it will separate the two, creating a gap for the spark to jump across, which then allows the spark to travel to the coil and therefore go through the coil wire to the plug where it fires in the engine, and voila, you have spark. Now, it can be a pain when this breaks off like it has, because as you can see here, it is broken off behind my finger there, right above it. It broke off in the bore, and it's not very fun to get to try and drill. So the first and foremost thing we're going to worry about here is, as you can see right here, there's a little bunion here, if you will, or a little guy poking out here. That is a plug that goes through in and out of the points casing here. That really all you got to do is take a punch and take him out like that. Now, of course, you can punch it out from the back. It's bidirectional, but in this case, it's just obviously the correct method to pull this guy out from the front. So set him down somewhere where you're not going to lose him, because you don't want oil coming out of there. That'd be a nice little oily, leaky mess that you'll never fix, which in my case, I'm going to be stupid and put it down here in the frame, but we're not going to listen to me on that one. So in this case, I have 3 different drill bits just to make sure we're getting all the junk out, as it's probably overkill. But we have a 7/64, we have a 1/8 inch, and a 9/64. This is the biggest you want to go. Now we're going to take our 7/64. Might have to take the mower deck off. Yeah, I'm going to take the mower deck front pins off for this. Alright, so I ended up having to take the mower deck front panel off here, off the front of the frame here, because you have to get the drill bit square with the hole. Alright, so here comes the fun part. This is kind of the part you got to watch for too. You got to be real careful with it. Of course, I'll probably end up showing you how not to do it, but you never know. Get it as dead on as we can with the X push rod, and try to start a good hole that's centered as you can. And then we just go kind of at a slow to medium pace. As you can see, there's the old push rod. It's a plastic kind of nylon material. Probably a smart thing to do after this would be to change the oil to make sure you didn't get any debris in there. So now I've switched to the 1/8 inch drill bit, and I'm going to go in there and make sure there's not larger debris sitting in there that we missed. There you go. That's why you do that. That's exactly why you have to go up to the size. Cause, oh, there you go. There's a nice chunk of the old rod right there. That's exactly why you go up in the drill bit size. You want to make sure that guy is clean. No pieces left. Do the 9/64 drill bit, and this is the last size we can go. As you can see, it should slide in and out pretty easy, but I'm just gonna make sure we're all nice and happy. We're not pulling any debris out. So I'd say that's got her. We got the old one drilled out here. Now we just got to go ahead and get the new parts and put them in. In this case, I'm going to use the old points because I know it's sparked. You take that drill bit and go into the camshaft and you don't realize it, that could be a problem down the road because the dowel for the points is not very big. It's little bitty guy. And if you make a big enough indentation on the camshaft, it's not going to open your points correctly and you'll have problems basically from here on out. You'll need a replacement cam. If you go too far and you somehow manage to drill through the camshaft, you're guaranteed a new cam. And that's not including any of the oil shavings or the shavings that you just made from the old push rod going into the oil pan, getting in your rods, getting in your bearings. It can be a nightmare. So realistically, if I were to add something on to doing that again, I would probably have a vacuum cleaner sitting right there sucking the shavings out of there, but I don't have one that's that small enough to get in there. And as long as you go slow and just make sure it gets cleared out every so often, it's not that big of a deal. All right, so here's our brand new brass push rod. We're gonna shove her in the hole and we're gonna install our points. Now, it should go in relatively easy. That's about where it should sit. So we will go ahead and put on the points and the cover. All right, so she's in. Let me go ahead and roll it over for you here. And you can see it's moving now. That is a lot better than where we were. There you go, we got spark. Now we gotta put her back together and see if it'll start. So it looks like we have our timing off, so I'm gonna have to get back in there and readjust it accordingly. Let me dig through the service manual and I'll figure it out here pretty quick. Okay, so basic moral of the story is you need to take one of these guys right here and put him in between your contacts. You're gonna take that 20 thousandths, go in between the contacts right there, and set it firm against it right at 20 thousandths in order to achieve the proper spark gap on a set of points for this engine. And then hopefully after that, it will work just fine. So this was one of those unintentional teachable moments. I kind of messed up and obviously didn't set the gap on it. Set your gap, or that's going to happen. So it was a pretty easy fix at least. So other than it having a bit of a nice ticky noise, it's actually a pretty good runner. I got to fiddle with the governor to get it to run right because it doesn't want to throttle up and down and not proper RPM. But I mean, other than that, it's doing really good actually. So there's that one fixed. Now I just got to get the starter issue fixed on it. You know, I got a jumper wire set there to get it to run. This one, on the other hand, I have no idea. I've never heard this one run, so we'll see what happens. This has a starting issue that has developed since I've owned it the last month. When I first got it, you could sit there and kind of hit or miss crank it over, but now it won't even crank at all. And what I've done here with this little contraption, as you guys can see, there's a fuse on here. I don't remember, 25 ampere, and then toggle switch. Hook this guy up to the battery on the positive, and then plug it in to your, which wire is this down here? Well, they're both purple, so that makes no sense. But if you're looking at the switch, it's the left wire. They're both purple on mine for some reason. It's the left wire, which is the start of the 12-volt circuit from the key for the safeties, which there's only two, this PTO switch and the neutral switch. Essentially what this does is when you flick that switch, it sends 12 volts to the PTO switch. He sees that he's not on, so he sends voltage back to the neutral switch. He sees that he's in neutral, so he sends voltage to the starter solenoid to starter, and you have a rotating engine. Basically, this is a bypass, and I would recommend not doing it unless you really have to, like this. But moral of the story is I've removed the key from the situation. That is my key. I still have to turn the key on to get the ignition, but that is my starter. And with that, that's proving that my safety switches are okay and they're working as they should. Basically saying that irons out everybody except for the key switch, which I took this key switch out before, cleaned the terminals, and I guess it's acting up again, needs a new key switch, or there's something buggy with it, which we'll get into a little bit later, but that's what's going on right now. All right, I do apologize in advance for not recording that, but I just kind of got wrapped up in the moment and decided to tear it apart. But more or less what I did is what I explained earlier, if I did. Took these bolts out, pulled the battery tray out and the gas tray out, or the gas tank out, pulled the switch out, cleaned the terminals, and what do you know, they were corroded. Put it all back together, and it spins, albeit the belt's not happy, but you know what I mean. So here's one of them completed. All right, let's go for a ride, shall we? Now the transmission's got some issues. That's about the only problem this thing really has. The variator works real good. Steering's nice and tight and real easy to turn. Brakes work. Let's see if PTO works. Yeah, look at that. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and chuck this one in here too, because, you know, we got two of them here, might as well bang them both here. Moral of the story with this one is I bought this one first and quickly figured out that it's not exactly a great tractor. And then I found this one, and this one's a lot better. But I have no clue about this thing at all. I've never heard it run. I've never heard it turn the mower deck, never heard it drive, nothing. I just know most of it's here, and it's kind of usable. Same problem with this one as that other one. Push rod, had to drill it out, yada yada yada. You guys know about that. We're going to put this guy in there. We're going to put the set of points that was in it in there, set the gap, hook it all back together, and see what happens. Okay, so it's been the better part of roughly a week or two now, and I got it to cough over on a bit of ether, but you guys didn't see that. I ran out of storage on the phone, etc, etc. I'm sorry, I should have gotten it, but it has coughed over and ran, but it will only run on ether, which is why I took this guy off. This is a Tecumseh HH100 carburetor, which in this case, the engine's been replaced before, which also ties into the fact that this says February of 1984. You can see it says it right there. So we're going to crack him open and see what's all inside. Which, if you're wanting a carb rebuild kit, I went through Hapco, and that's your number right there to get. It's a little carb kit. Comes with new intake gasket, new fuel bowl O-ring for the guy down there, the little drain down there, new fuel bowl, new jet, new idle jet, new spring, and a new needle and seat. All right, heater's off. Probably hear me a lot better. It doesn't look that much better in the light, but it's a lot more clean now. So hopefully this will look significantly better. I kind of did a quick over of the bowl. It's not in very good shape. There's some rust that's pretty stuck in there, which usually 90% of the time. And don't listen to me on that one. If you're going to clean the bowl, clean it good. But in this case, that rust is pretty embedded. The likeliness of it breaking off and going anywhere is pretty slim to none, because it looks a lot better when I first started with it. But then pretty much from here, I just go ahead, and I know it's hard to see, but this is how I do it. It's not the best way to do it, but I go ahead and match new gasket versus old gasket, new part versus new part, new parts versus, you know what I'm saying. I set them right next to where they came from on what the parts are, so when I put it back together, I know, okay, this is from the bowl on the bottom for the main jet, this is for the float, this is the gaskets, this is the little drain valve in here to get him all rebuilt, new gasket there, new spring, which apparently, by the way, this guy didn't have a spring in there, which is not very crucial because it's still gravity fed, but it's still kind of a necessity. You got to have a little spring pressure going against the gas coming in on the fuel line there. So I just basically sort out what I'm going to do and then slap it back together. So, and of course, this is not the cleanest table to do it on, but I've honestly done it on worse and had better results. So truthfully, this whole shop needs cleaned. So, and it's not mine, which sucks, but because I would be doing a deep clean of it. But anyways, let's go ahead and put her back together. All right, she's on. Moment of truth. Hopefully it won't spit and backfire and catch everywhere on fire. So, and the worst part is it's manual choke, because my choke cable is broken. So yeah, fun times to be had by all. Look at that. I can turn the choke off because it's probably going to start and run on its own. She runs. I'll put it all back together. We'll take it out for a spin. I think ironically this one's in better shape engine wise. Oh, grill's in too far. Than the other 112 I have is. This one doesn't smoke anywhere near as much. It does need a front tire, however, and a cover, and a deck. So, she's not perfect by any means, that's for certain. You know, I just realized I've never test drove this tractor before. Oh, yeah. Okay, radiator sheave hits the bottom of the fender pan. Second works good. Third works noisy, but it works. And fourth, oh yeah, she's there. Damn, these are both good. The variator's strong on both of these. Reverse. Last but not least, a little too far. Wow. Okay, that is not first. There's first. Yeah, look at that. Okay, tire's going flat. But it works. Mower deck doesn't work because I got to put new belts on it. So that's number 2 finished, at least for you guys for now.